All, to those of you who are here with us in person and to those of you who are joining us live or on radio. And thank you for being here at this government press conference. We will start by asking Honorable Carol Hodge to open us up with a word of prayer.
Thank you, Premier. Let's pray. Heavenly Father God, we thank you for your goodness. We thank you for your love. Thank you for your mercies, God. And we just thank you, dear God, that we are here right now in this setting. And as we are here, Father, we pray for those who are sick. We pray for healing. And as we are here, God, we pray for those families who have lost loved ones. We pray for their comfort, God. And we pray in general for healing for Anguilla. And we pray for forgiveness to reign among this nation so that we can return to some type of normalcy as it relates to our daily living, God. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Minister Hodge. Let me start by extending deepest and heartfelt condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones who would have recently experienced persons who have passed on. And in particular, the events of last week, which would have ended in the loss of young lives. This is an issue that we've been dealing with for some time, the issue of gun crime and violence in our country. And last week, I believe, would have resulted in a lot of heartache and pain, not only for the families of those persons who would have passed on, but also for Anguilla as a whole and the entire community. I want to start off by thanking the Commissioner of Police and the members of the Royal Anguilla Police Force for the work that they have been doing over not just the past week, 2 weeks, but for quite some time in terms of bringing the perpetrators to justice. I also want to thank the Governor and the UK government for their assistance, their contribution, financial and otherwise, in terms of the work that is currently being done. And you will hear more from the Commissioner of Police in terms of what work is being done shortly. I want to also thank the members of my government, and many of you may know that I was not on island last week. I was away on business, and the Honorable Carol Hodge would have been acting Premier in my absence. And I want to thank the Honorable Carol Hodge in particular for all of the work. I know he was under severe pressure, trial by fire, in terms of his first assignment as acting Premier. And I want to thank him and the entire team for stepping up, coming forward, and bringing calm to the people of Anguilla during this period of time. We are here because we're extremely concerned in relation to not just the incidents that have taken place last week, but generally what is happening on our island and across the region in terms of gun crime and violence. And over the weekend, we have heard of incidents taking place on other shores as well. But of course, we in Anguilla are concerned about what is happening here in Anguilla and our people. And we need to understand the full implications as to what is taking place in our country, and we need to take steps in order to have the issues addressed. And I will start off by asking the Commissioner of Police to give us an update as to what has transpired since last week. I know that he's been at a couple of press conferences already, and so I'll ask him to bring us up to date in terms of what has happened up to today. Thank you.
Thank you, Premier. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone who's watching online or listening on radio. I will begin by giving a quick summation of where we are with each of the three ongoing investigations that commenced last week. So in relation to the shooting which occurred on the 6th of May at Blowing Point, in which an 18-year-old man was shot and very seriously injured, we have made 3 arrests during the tail end of last week. Those persons have been helping us with our inquiries, and they have been released from custody this morning pending further inquiries. I would remind the public not to speculate. When someone is brought into custody, it is not an indication of guilt. It is an indication that we are following lines of inquiry, and the public should not draw any conclusions from that. CCTV opportunity is still being extensively explored. I have officers currently working their way through it, and an officer currently at Blowing Point at the moment, seeking further CCTV over a different timescale. In addition to that, we are working with our colleagues in Marigot and the French Gendarmerie to try and establish the whereabouts of the victim in St. Martin, whom they may have been associating with, and the movements of him and others at the Marigot ferry terminal. As I said in previous press conferences, there is a mixed economy team for each of the three investigations. This investigation is being led by a detective inspector. In relation to the murder on Friday, the 9th of May, at approximately 11:15 in the West End area of Anguilla, a detective superintendent heads up the investigative team specifically set up for this inquiry. As I have previously said, because of the cooperation of the public on the day, within a relatively short time, and I'm talking probably within a 2-hour window, we had identified and recovered the vehicle which we believe was used to commit the murder and then get away. That vehicle has been forensically processed. There is a few other inquiries forensically which need to be completed on that, but the majority of those are done, and those will be submitted. This morning, on the 12th of May, the RAPF tactical team, assisted by the Viper team, simultaneously executed 2 search warrants, and we have 2 suspects currently in custody and have seized a number of exhibits in relation to that investigation. If I can say to all those who are watching or listening, if you have any sightings of the Toyota between the 8th and 9th of May, we would ask you please to pass those on to us, either by one of the secure website means or by speaking to a police officer whom you know. If I can then move on to the shooting incident later on the 6th I beg your pardon, on the 9th of May, in relation to the sort of North Valley area. Inquiries remain ongoing in relation to that investigation. The investigation team is headed up by a detective superintendent. We are currently working through, again, CCTV and looking at a number of hypotheses as to how and why this incident happened. We have recovered one vehicle which was struck by a number of gunshots and spoken to the driver of that individual. He was not spoken to as a suspect, and he surrendered his vehicle for forensic examination to the RAPF. We are making progress in that investigation, and I would expect later this week to be able to bring you, Premier, and the island further updates as to where we are with that investigation. Would you like me to move on to what we are doing on a national security basis? All right, thank you. So in response to the incidents which occurred last week, We took a decision on Friday that we would move to what I consider to be a national security footing of the RAPF and how we provide services to this island. Everything which would have been considered standard, normal business, and which we now feel can be postponed or scaled back, has been. All officers have been deployed onto high visibility, armed policing patrols to provide reassurance and stop and search across the island. In addition to this, having spoken with the government and with ASPA, and to reassure those who are coming to island, officers have been deployed to the Blowing Point port and will remain there for the foreseeable future. In addition to that, as I have said, I have sought some additional resource. I am just currently working through that, both from potentially another overseas territory and from the UK government in relation to helping bolster some of the investigative capacity that we have on island. As I said in the previous press conference, for me, we must convert evidence and our ability into prosecution. That is a key area for me, and hence why I have asked for an additional 6 detectives from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office to come to Anguilla. They will be embedded with our local officers. This is not necessarily a standalone team. As I have said, the current UK detective cadre, they are working with each of the investigative teams and along with their RAPF colleagues to gather the evidence. This, while I understand the frustration can sometimes be a slow process when it comes to gathering forensic evidence, but it is important that it is done in a professional and thorough way, so that when it is tested in court, that actually we are sure that we will get a conviction for the evidence that we have recovered. My ask to you, the Anguilla public, is that if you know something, please say something to someone that you feel you can trust. If you don't want to do that, I have talked about Secure AXA. It's a different domain to gov.ai/911. The feedback I was getting was that people didn't necessarily trust that website because of the domain that it had. Hence why we've set up Secure AXA. Both of those websites are hosted in California. The government have no access to them. I have no access to the websites. You can leave information without your name, without any contact details on that website, and that is then sent to our intelligence unit. That is only seen by 3 trusted people who look at the information to see whether it might in any way identify the person because of how it's written or what they've said, and they then sanitize that so that when we use it, there is no opportunity for the person who supplied the information to be identified. I urge you, please use the websites. Use someone you trust. We are receiving information. We are receiving more information than I probably have ever done since I have arrived. However, there are people on this island who know where the guns are. You have a civic duty to you, your family, and this island to say where those guns are. I give you my word and my assurance that if you tell me where those guns are, I will go and get them. Premier?
Thank you, Commissioner. In the interest of time, I will open the floor for questioning. The Commissioner does have to go, and so I will ask that after each of the non-ministerial presenters, that they be allowed to, that you ask the questions that you need to ask, so that they be allowed to go after. This is a long press conference, and so I will ask that you be succinct in your questions, so that we can move through the different presentations that we have this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Harrigan.
James Harrigan from the Anguilla newspaper. To the Commissioner, at the time when the shootings took place in Boyne Point, was there police presence there?
No.
There is traditionally police presence in Boyne Point, at the old port especially. Wouldn't you think about putting a police station on there again?
We have a small office there, and from when I arrived in May 2022, there weren't actually police. There may have been prior to Irma down at that port. There wasn't when I arrived. There are now, and as I have said, some people might say that's bolting the stable door after the horse has bolted. However, there will be a permanent police presence in Boyne Point moving forward.
How robust is the security down there in terms of physical security within the compound?
It's a very well designed building. The CCTV, which was installed at the port, has been instrumental in helping us with our investigation.
Mm-hmm. Do I understand you speaking about a vehicle that was shot at in the third incident?
That is correct, yes.
How does that link with the death, though, the death of the person? Can you tell us how it will?
There are a number of hypotheses that are currently being worked on. I don't want to say more than that just at the moment, if you don't mind. I might be able to say slightly more later this week, but there are a number of hypotheses that were being worked on.
Can you tell whether or not each of these three incidents are related or in response to another?
So, in relation to some of them, yes, they may be, but in others, no.
At least one or two?
I would say one.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Good afternoon.
Carlton Pickering from Creative Communications Network Television. Thank you for the update that you have given of this series of incidents that happened here in Anguilla. But my questions, because I think in similar things before, we are hearing the same thing all the time. Are we just outing fires? Or are we have a comprehensive plan of tackling the situation of guns and other incidents on the island?
So no, we are not tackling fires. We are unfortunately having to tackle incidents that come along too frequently. But from my point of view, is there a plan in the RAPF? Yes, there is, Mr. Pickering. For me, you will see a policing plan, which hopefully will be published quite soon. It's just in the final stages that will look at policing in Anguilla from 2025 to 2030 across 5 separate areas. I'd done a consultation just finishing at the end of last year, so I hope that that will be published soon and will show the Anguilla public what the RAPF are going to be concentrating on, and that actually at the end of each of those years I will be held to account, because I will publish a report into what we have done in respect of each of those areas.
Do we have enough resource presently to tackle the situation?
Resourcing is a discussion that we will continue to have both internally and with the government and with the UK. We are currently recruiting next week, and that is to fill vacancies that have occurred because persons have resigned or have retired. That recruitment will bring us back up to the 126 officers that we're established for at the moment. That is RAPF officers from the region, if I can put it like that, and then anything from the UK is on top of that. I currently have 2 analysts and 5 detectives, and I'm slated for 6 UK firearms officers on top of that. So that's an additional 13 on top of the 126.
What about our border security? Because that is essential for Anguilla, and we have just been talking about it time and time again. What are the plans for border security?
So I can certainly speak from an RAPF point of view. Obviously, customs and immigration play a key role to how we secure our borders. As part of that, we had not had a marine unit on this island for quite some period of time. And one of my focuses after I arrived was to get that marine unit re-established. That has been re-established. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, the boat was damaged when it broke its moorings at sandy ground and went on a reef. It's currently in the process of being repaired. However, I am seeking some assistance from a close overseas territory neighbour to see if they can supply us with an alternative in the meantime to get us back properly onto the water. We have regular meetings, strategically quarterly meetings, with our French and Dutch counterparts. The Colonel of the Gendarmes was over earlier this month and spent a day with us looking at issues which affects both the French side and ourselves. Our intelligence unit over the last 12 to 18 months has been able to identify individuals both from the French side, Dutch side, and Anguilla, where there have been linkages to certainly incidents in St. Martin that may have involved individuals from Anguilla, and we are currently assisting the Dutch with inquiries in respect of 2 incidents that I'm aware of. In addition to that, we are setting up a joint intelligence unit which will comprise officers from the RAPF, Customs and Immigration. That is about better information sharing that allows us to take action. As I understand, the UK government have paid for a coastal monitoring system which should be installed later this year. That will give a very clear picture of who is using our waters. It should give us the ability to identify vessels which are not properly electronically identifiable. It should give us the ability to look at patterns and places, and it then should give us the ability to plan operations to intercept persons illegally coming into our waters. In addition, that will be linked into the Joint Emergency Services Control Room, along with hopefully the CCTV that will be coming later this year, that will allow us as a force, along with our partners, to better respond and more timely to incidents which are coming up. So I hope in some way that that reassures you, Mr. Pickering, and some of the people who are listening.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Mr. Hodge.
Thanks for the briefing. I appreciate it. On many occasions, including the conference on Saturday, you have referred to these incidents as gang-related violence. You've often referred to the Police Intelligence Unit. Can you please tell us what information you are relying on to classify this as gang-related? Or do you consider all homicides or shootings gang-related?
No.
Okay. So what are you relying on to classify these as gang-related?
I am relying on information which we have received, both from on island. I'm relying on liaising with our partners more widely across the Caribbean. I don't lightly classify something potentially as gang-related without some form of information or intelligence which would suggest that it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I dislike labeling this as gang-related violence because I think it sends a false message or messaging to tourists and people overseas. It paints Anguilla as a violent place, and I know that I have often said our gun crimes here per capita is higher than most places across the world. But the fact is, these shootings seem to be targeted, and they seem to be conducted by people who have issues with each other. And so I guess my question is, what can you, since you're saying it's gang-related, what can you tell us about these gangs? How many gangs we have on Anguilla, rival gangs, etc., etc.? How are they identified? Do they have particular colors? Where are they located? And just how does the public, what can you say to make the public aware of you might be looking at a gang member? Let's call the police.
So that in some ways can be problematic. And I don't necessarily always like talking about police methodology. However, that being said, it is clear to those who look at social media that some of the social media that goes about this island affiliates itself to certain gangs. So I don't know whether you're familiar, Darnley, with the Six Eyes or the Seven Eyes, which originated out of Trinidad. There is clearly an affiliation for some people on this island to affiliate themselves with those because of what and how they are posting on social media. That gives an indication as to where their allegiances may or may not lie. In relation to other things, there are, again, certain symbols or certain t-shirts sometimes that might be worn. Now, I don't want to go into what those might look like on the basis of when it comes to tit for tat, or someone just happens to have bought a t-shirt out of a shop and put it on without understanding what that might mean. So when it comes to that type of thing, I'm not prepared to comment on that. But as you have said, some of this on the island is rooted in past grievances. There is no doubt about that. There is no doubt about that. Other issues are not about past grievances.
Okay. Perhaps I missed it in your comments, but since we're insisting that a lot of this is gang-related, How many gangs do we have on Anguilla? How large are these gangs? What does the Police Intelligence Unit know that can be useful to the public in keeping themselves safe, as well as useful to the police department in their investigations?
So what I would say, Darnley, is, you know, confidentiality is a huge issue on this island. I do not discuss police intelligence publicly, and I won't be drawn on police intelligence and what I know or what I may know. So when it comes to that, I won't comment on that. There are many people on this island who think they know as to gangs and what it might look like. I don't want to go into how many gangs there might be on the island. I don't think that is useful for the island. What I would say to you is, I think that it is a relatively small minority of people. And I'm probably talking, and I will put a figure in this for you, probably in the region of 200, maybe just shy over 200, that may have some sort of association. So you can see in an island of 14,000, that's not necessarily a lot. But if you're asking me for how many people I think might be active in this area, it is a very small part of the population. However, they are a very dangerous part of this population. And again, that's why I ask, in a small community, people know who these people are. They know. And I have discussed at most press conferences a code of silence. We need to learn to break that code of silence. Hence why I keep talking about the secure websites. That is one way of doing that, Darnley.
Commissioner, I'm not disputing what you're saying about people know who they are, and I'm not asking you to divulge tactical information and investigative techniques of the gang intelligence in terms of what they're doing, but certainly, in reference to your comment, you can tell us. So you're saying that there are approximately 200 gang members on Anguilla?
That's what I said.
Do these gangs have names?
I'm not prepared to discuss that. I mentioned 2 names earlier on, Darnley, and I'm not prepared to be drawn any further in this in public.
Wow, okay. All right, I obviously have a strong disagreement with you in terms of your attitude about this, but I'll leave it alone. I'll discuss that on radio tonight.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Sazam Hall of Class FM.
Good afternoon, sir.
You said you came in May of 2022.
That's 1st of May I started.
So the past 3 years you have been here.
2. I've just finished my 2nd.
Okay. Could you give an indication of how many accused persons have been convicted of murder?
2. Sorry, there are 2 cases which are currently ongoing at the moment.
Can you give an indication of those who were acquitted? How many acquittals they had?
How many?
Acquittals. How many persons?
They haven't reached court yet.
What sort of continuous investigation have taken place to sort of brought perpetrators to justice?
Okay. So every murder that has occurred from I have arrived here is still an open case. There are inquiries ongoing in every case. Gorman Greenaway was the first person who was murdered when I arrived on this island on the 7th of May, I believe. That case remains open, as does every other case. As I have said before, I have sent detectives to the United Kingdom to speak to potential witnesses for some of these murders, to try and convert that into evidence to bring it before the court. There is still forensic material with the FBI in America for examination into the murder of Shaquan Richardson and the cemetery shooting in December. That work still remains ongoing. Each murder case is reviewed to see what intelligence has come in and where the forensic strategy lies. So I assure you that every case, and I understand the frustration because I've had someone who spoke to me to say, what about my relative's case prior to my time? So on the basis that was looked at, and we were able to go back to that person, not perhaps with the result that they wanted. But while I am here, where there is an opportunity to solve murder and serious crime, I will do whatever I have to do to exploit that opportunity.
You have an idea what is the root cause of crime on the island?
There are a number of causes, but yes.
Can you lament on a few if you don't mind?
Well, as I've said, as Mr. Hodge alluded to, there is some historical issues which bubble on. There have been issues with drugs and the movement of drugs. We are on a transnational drug shipment network. And with that comes serious criminality. So part of it relates to that. And if you're asking me, those are probably the two biggest drivers for serious crime on the island.
Okay, you give an estimation of about 200 persons
Approximately.
you think who are involved in gangs?
Approximately.
And then you said previously that persons know where the guns are.
Some persons do, yes.
If you knew who the persons are who are involved in gangs, why is it so difficult to find these guns?
Because they don't always keep them in their house.
You think other persons are holding them?
I beg your pardon?
You think other persons are holding these guns for the criminals?
They could be hidden in the bush, they could be hidden in other places, they could be hidden in other persons' houses. So there's a number of places that they could be stored.
Thank you.
I was speaking to someone last weekend, right, on the matter, series of shootings, and it was said that these gangs start from in school. School is the basis of these gangs. Do you think that's true, sir?
I think some of the historical issues may have started in schools a long time ago.
Where young men become accepted by groups of their peers, and they form shoots or offshoots of bigger gangs from school.
Perhaps,
And,
yes.
and if it starts in school, then it may be upon the onus of the Minister of Education to research that.
I think, to be fair to the Minister of Education, it would be unfair to say that, gang-related activity starts in school. I think, certainly from what I've been told, some of the much older, long-standing disagreements, if I can put it like that, may have started at school, but not all of them by any stretch of the imagination. I think it is fair to say that there are individuals, and I have described them as child abusers, because that's what they are, who have taken the opportunity to groom either young men or young females by expensive gifts or money or whatever in return for doing a favor, if I can put it like that, or being a part of a group. And what do? They get that young individual to do the dirty work. if I can put it like that, that keeps that person at arm's length, because it's their life that they're going to destroy, while the person that has groomed them sits above it. So they are child abusers, and that's how they should be seen.
So then there are the recruitment processes that these young men go through.
Not necessarily just young men.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, Niamke from Radio Anguilla.
Good afternoon.
My question is in relation to the CCTV coverage throughout the island. I know that a number of cameras would have been installed around Carnival last year, and they are still up and running, I would assume. Can you explain where where exactly the CCTVs are located and throughout the island?
Not all of the cameras are still in place. We put it up over, as you say, Carnival. It was the 50th. And that was to ensure that we had good coverage in areas that we felt were at risk. I know the government are now working really hard to get a state-of-the-art CCTV system on the island. You'll forgive me for not necessarily wanting to advertise where the cameras might be, and I'd rather not, if you don't mind.
Can you tell us what is causing the delay in having island-wide coverage?
It would be fair to say, look, it's a complex project, and it would be perhaps better if someone else spoke to what that is. But there have been some procurement issues. But we need to get the CCTV provision right. There's no point the government spending a lot of money just to get it done if we don't get the right stuff.
Just to weigh in, the Minister of Maiku will give some further update in terms of CCTV cameras. We know that has been a discussion for at least 16 to 18 months now. And so when he will be joining us here at the head table, and he'll be able to speak further on that.
What is the level of backlog in prosecuting persons for serious crimes in Anguilla?
That's not a question I could probably answer. We would have to go and look at what the court service backlog would be from we actually get it into there until it gets to court. So I can't accurately answer that. I wouldn't like to do that.
Okay. And based on your investigations so far, have you been able to determine if any of the shell casings or the guns used were involved in other crimes throughout the island?
Yes, they have.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I would like to thank the Commissioner of Police for being present and for giving us this update, and we will let him leave us now, and we'll move on. Thank you, Commissioner. You will have heard the updates over the past few days in relation to the work being done by the Royal Anguilla Police Force and the involvement of the UK government in terms of financing and securing other programs available for us here in Anguilla. One of the things that is important for us to consider as well is that there is a need for us to reach our communities. What is happening on the police level, on the UK level is good, but it is not enough. We have a responsibility as a community, as Anguillians, to be able to address some of the issues that are taking place here. The Commissioner can speak about policing, he can speak about jail, he can speak about the legislation, and the UK government can speak about bringing in boats and police officers, etc. But the crux of the matter, and I believe that someone mentioned it earlier, is that we have an issue among our community. We have an issue in our homes, we have an issue in terms of our young people. Not all young people, but there are some. And when you look at the ages which our persons, and especially the most recent victims when you look at the ages of these young persons, we have to understand that there is a need for us as a community to come together. There is a social development aspect that is critical. And this is a public health issue as far as we are concerned as a government. And what it means is that we have to take strides and take steps to ensure that we address this problem for the sake of our young people and for the sake of Anguilla. With that being said, I would like to introduce the Minister of Social Development, Education, Honorable Shelia Rogers-Webster, and her team to outline what is being done and our proposals for moving forward.
Thank you very much, Premier. Good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to the media, those listening here. Thank you very much for that, Premier. Special good afternoon to all of the members of the media, those listening via Facebook Live and radio. It's a pleasure to be here today. I also wish to extend my condolences to the family of those who have experienced loss this week and those who may be injured. It is quite a difficult period for us as an Anguillan community, but it's more important, more than ever before now, for us to remain committed to working together to address these issues. Crime and violence in this country is a very complex issue. And as the Premier indicated, there's a place for a national security perspective, and that's where the Governor and the Commissioner of Police come in. But there is also a number of other stakeholders that play an integral role in addressing some of those issues. And from a government perspective, the area of social development is critically important. And I want the public to be reassured that there are a number of ongoing social-related programs and community-based programs that are being undertaken by the government of Anguilla that are not just starting now, but some have been ongoing. And it is very important that the community has a greater appreciation for some of those initiatives, because we can appreciate as well that there may have been some deficiencies in public relations and marketing support for a number of these initiatives. And so it's very important that the public is aware of some of the things that have been ongoing and some of the programs that are on the horizon to help to tackle some of these challenges that we face. Because as we indicated, this is also a social development issue. This is a public health issue. And as such, we have to ensure that we put the necessary resources behind all of the departments under social development so that they can get the necessary support. I want to put on record that Cabinet is committed to increasing the investments in social development, and my ministry in totality through the next budgetary cycle, because we recognize that if we are important, that if we are to tackle some of these issues, it is important that we put the necessary financial resources and human capacity behind some of these challenges. I want to put on record that Mrs. Hyacinth Bradley has been the community services planner for quite some time. However, Mrs. Bradley has never really had a unit until maybe within the last year to really be able to adequately carry out some of the programs, and we're still not where we are. But Mrs. Bradley's unit is critically important because prior to the development of that unit, you really didn't have a robust unit that was engaged in preventative measures and ongoing interventions. What would happen is that once individuals get into the system, they have challenges, they end up going to maybe social development, they may be in the probation sector, you may end up in the juvenile facility, but that's really at the end. And it's very important for us to start early interventions as early as the early primary level and be able to really provide the support necessary to families, to children on this journey. And this is where the community services unit comes in. And so I just want to say right now, Mrs. Bradley heads the unit, and there is one full-time officer in the unit and then another officer that is shared with social development. We are committed to increasing the capacity in that unit moving forward, but also to expand the programs that are there, to put more funding and resources there. And Mrs. Bradley will go into detail on what is offered by her unit and the collaborative work that she does with the Department of Youth and Culture and Social Development. In addition to that, we also have the Department of Youth and Culture that has a number of skill and job-based training programs that are ongoing, that it is important for the general public to understand and to know about as well. In addition to that, we also have the acting CEO, Mrs. Tracelyn Hamilton, who's also here to speak on the education perspective. In response to a number of the ongoing challenges that exist, it was very important for the education team to get together to really ensure that in the coming weeks and months, there's like examinations ongoing. There's so much happening that they are prepared to respond to any challenges that may seep out into the school. And before I turn over to the members of the technical team, I want to also say that in relation to the schools, the reality is that I don't necessarily think that the behavior and gang behavior starts in the schools per se, but obviously the school is that central area where everybody gathers, and oftentimes the issues then become really apparent there because that's where a lot of the clashes are happening. And so unfortunately, oftentimes teachers are put in very uncomfortable positions to manage challenges that they really are not equipped to deal with. And it's really unfair to them to have to deal with some of those challenges in addition to all the other challenges that they are facing in education at this time. And so it's very important for us as a team moving forward to also provide teachers, counselors with the necessary psychosocial support to be able to address some of those concerns, because they are dealing with a lot in that environment. They are responsible for teaching, counseling, for offering support to the students, and they themselves oftentimes need support as well. So we are also committed to providing additional resource support in those areas. But we also have to look at our policies, our procedures at the school level as well, to be able to respond to students who are problematic within the system. But also I want to say, in addition to all of this, and from the government's perspective and social development's perspective, we are committed to doing our best, but we cannot do it alone. It is very, very important, and this is a plea to parents in particular. Without your support, without the guidance that is needed and the collaborative effort that is needed to address some of these issues, we cannot really arrest the situation at hand. There are a number of students who are operating in the education system who are repeat offenders in terms of behaviors that are constantly being suspended, that are being brought before the principal's office. We're asking parents to provide us with the support and the interventions necessary for us to make sure that later down, these children don't end up in deeper situations, because the reality is that history continues to show that students who have challenges in the earlier stages and are repeat offenders of bad behaviors at the school level, these things carry on to the adult level, and we continue to see that. And so it's very, very important that when parents identify issues earlier, you reach out to the community services planner, reach out to the Department of Social Development, reach out even to the school, ask for intervention. And nothing is wrong with asking for support and help. It exists. But the reality is you need to take advantage of what is there, because we are here to support in any way, shape, or form that we can. So at this time now, I'd like to turn over to the technical team so that they can go through some of the different areas that and programs and plans that they're undertaking to address some of the issues. And after that period of time, we'll allow for questions to allow the technical team to leave. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. All right, so I'm here giving some updates on the Department of Education. And as our minister would have said, we have met as a team, the senior management team at the Department of Education, with the principal and the board of directors of the school. We met and the security company over the weekend. And I first would like to say that we are not reactive. We are just looking at what we have already and seeing how we can strengthen what we are already doing. So basically, we wanted to look at the current situation in Anguilla, also the time that we are in exam period. we have our students that will be doing CCSLC. They've already started CSEC and CAPE examinations. And so we sat down and we first of all thought about what should we do going back to school this morning after the weekend. And we planned, and it was executed. I must say today, all schools had a psychosocial well-being check. So principals went to the schools and we had well-being checks for our staff and our students. And we all know the situation in Anguilla. We are either related and we are impacted in some way or the other. So we wanted to know where our teachers were in terms of how are they doing, how are our students doing, and to also provide the support. Thanks to Mrs. Bradley as well. We did have some members of the psychosocial team at the schools. We want to thank our school chaplains and other pastors who were readily available to support our schools in this effort this morning. And by all means, it's not an end, it's basically a continuation. So we will continue to support our teachers, we will continue to support our students, and by extension our parents in terms of how they are feeling right now and what we can do to ensure that they feel safe. So that was the first thing we had, our psychosocial wellness checks this morning. We also looked at the pre-existing protocols for schools at a secondary school. We all know we have the security company, they have protocols, so we wanted to make sure that there was strict enforcement of those protocols. And that looks like this. At the secondary level, only authorized vehicles, teachers, administrators, and the education support staff were permitted to go on campus and remain. Parents, we drive through, we drop off, and we leave. Also, the gates at all campuses would be closed throughout the school day. This is at the secondary level. At the primary level, I just want us to know that we are not forgetting primary school. So it is also the aim to ensure that our children are safe across all schools. At the primary level, we continue to ask visitors, parents, on approach to the school to please respect our school safety officers and report to the office. They will do the sign in. There are protocols for going onto the school, and the principal would guide them to where they have to go. So we're asking our primary school parents and visitors to do likewise, to adhere to the protocols that we have established. For students that are sitting exams, we know that they are off-site campuses as well. We would have ramped up security at those places. We have extra security now at those off-site campuses because those who are attending the examinations at school campuses, there is that level of security and checkpoints and handheld security scanners. So now the other offsites would be the music room at Campus A, the Teachers Resource Center. Well, the music room at Campus A, they must be scanned at the gate. So it's a Teachers Resource Center where we would have put security, and upstairs the Anguilla Community College, we have also included security personnel there. Hence, we are asking all candidates to adhere in terms of being at these sites. We are asking now for an hour before the exam starts, and because we know we would have to go through the proper, we want safety, we have to ensure that the security persons do their job well. So we are asking all candidates to, when they report to the sites for exams, to come at least 1 hour before the exam so that we would not have any delays with the exam. Additionally, we have asked the Royal Anguilla Police Force to continue to make visits to the school in terms of not just passing through, but spending some time on campuses as well, to ensure that they continue to have that feel of what's happening at the school level. And I think that's about all of the updates in terms of, as I said, we're just heightening the security of our campuses to ensure that all students and all teachers and other members of staff, they are safe.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Hi, St. Augustine Bradley. I'm going to share with you some of the work that we've been doing at the Community Services Planning Unit. Started off a couple of years ago as just the Community Services Planner, and as of January 1st of this year, we're being developed into a unit with one full-time staff who would have joined me in December of 2024 and a shared staff in January of this year. So prior to the establishment of the unit as a planner, my main focus was to get an appreciation and an understanding of what is happening on the ground. Because from our stance, we look at crime and violence as a response. And there's a number of root causes that propels that sort of behavior. So to get an appreciation and then to come up with some sort of strategies and intervention, I would share with you briefly on some of the following engagements I would have spearheaded. So I would continue to work very closely with the Department of Youth and Culture, serving as planner, leading on the development of the National Youth Policy, and also with the Department of Sports on the establishment of the National Sports Policy. Community engagements, and again that is engagements with parents and children, also with social clubs, with community-based organizations, churches, and also the community development centers that are led by the Department of Youth and Culture. Also working very closely with the school, and not only as with the administrators, the teachers, or any level of senior management team solely, but also closely with the students. And of course, continued work with the Royal Anguilla Police Force, getting an understanding and appreciation of their intervention and their responses with the Department of Probation, what is there through the Zenaida Haven system and through persons on probation, also through His Majesty's Prison, what is being done, what's there for rehabilitation and intervention while incarcerated, and of course through the Department of Social Development. The main focus is to understand what each partner was doing and to discontinue the execution of the work in silos, but they work really collaboratively, but not only with department or government department. A look was also, and really fundamental, is that of the community, those who are non-governmental entities, what is being done and how can we collaborate together. But even more so and more importantly is that of the parents and the community members themselves. So from late 2022 towards the last quarter of 2022, we would have launched a key program, that's the Family First program. But even before I get into what it really focuses on, I would like to say that we identified 4 key pillars where we believe interventions or engagements are critical for more sustained approach to crime prevention and reintegration or rehabilitation going forward. So we're looking at prevention and diversion. We're looking at intervention with some levels of interception, and rehabilitation and reintegration. So for that, we launched in late 2022 Family First. That's a national parenting empowerment program that's really focusing on strengthening family engagement and support. And it's really parent-centered, because what we've realized during crime and violence or incidents with our young people, our children and our youth, we realize that oftentimes, and again with our engagement with parents feel that they are always blamed for those sort of challenges. But we realize it's important for us as an entity, as a country, as a department, to also offer support to parents. So our national parenting program is really parent-centered, where we help work with parents, help build them to be better versions of themselves. And we believe that through that engagement, they'll be able to transfer more positive parenting to their young ones, to their families. So that has been ongoing. We've been offering some support in a blended approach, online and physical setting, and we've also been offering some engagement in the Spanish language with appreciation of our large Spanish-speaking population. Throughout this year, from the beginning of this year, we had the court come on board, and now we have some parents who are court mandated to attend the parenting session. So a plan is being developed. What are some of the topics or themes that they should engage in, and they need to attend, and there's some sort of attendance being shown for them. And of course, the Department of Education, as we continue, we've seen that in some instances, through the education policy, some parents are encouraged to go there. And as part of the Department of Social Development case plan for some of their clients, parenting program is part of that. However, we must say that the Family First program, that National Parenting Empowerment Program, is not just geared at particular parent. It's a national program because we believe as an entity, as a community, we as parents can all support each other. So the engagement is for everyone. And we've been seeing some good development there into 23, into 2024, and we look at further expanding that into this year. We have also the early detection and the diversion, and we're looking at rolling it out actually this month, where we're looking at working closely with young persons as early as 7 years, grade 4, grade 3, young persons, children who have shown the propensity based on their behavior, they may be on that trail of engaging as they become older into crime and violence. Okay, what we've seen that we've worked with the teachers to identify some early signs of deviance, and it would be said that some sort of engagement will conclude that it's not a cognitive delay, but it's more a behavioral challenge. And we're working along with the school and the Department of Youth and Culture to identify some support systems for those young persons and their families. Through mentorship, through positive engagement, we want to bring on board more engagement with the churches and the community organizations of how they will keep those young persons positively engaged when they're possibly left home alone. How can the community centers pull those young persons when they're in the community being idle? Or how can we support the parents of those young persons to divert that energy or that behavior and redirect them into something more positive? Under the same prevention initiative, we also have youth leadership. Now, what we've realized, some of our young persons, many of our young persons are doing really well. And they're trying and they're doing really well. But we would appreciate that peer pressure can become really strong. And if there's not a continued support, not only at home, but in the community, to ensure that they keep on the straight and narrow, then they could possibly easily fall with the negative crowd. So we continue to support and advocate for those young persons, provide them with more social or skill development, more personal development, interventions like peer support, emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, those sort of soft skills of how to manage themselves, how to continue to support each other on being more positive. And of course, we've enhanced and heightened our mental health and wellness. I've developed a team of 12 persons where we're working as psychosocial support, not only to families, but we were able to offer some support to the schools, in communities when they do call upon us. And we also coordinate the 24/7 psychosocial hotline, that's 7233, that persons can call when they're going through any sort of challenges that they need support. Under the area of intervention, we're looking more at working with the high school young persons. We've dubbed that program 5% because what we've realized in our assessment, again working closely with our key partners, we've realized that a small percentage of our young persons in the high school would have been flagged for those sort of behavioral tendencies that has again the propensity to get into more crime and violence. So our intervention with those groupings are done by peer group-based intervention, following the identification with school, family engagement. We have the role modeling concept. We're identifying some extracurricular support for those young persons, and we're trying to enhance the church-family partnership. What more can be done to ensure that these young persons, again, there's some sort of intervention and presenting them with more healthy and more positive approaches and opportunities to engage in. And under the area of rehabilitation and reintegration, what we've realized with young persons coming out of the Zenaida Haven system, coming out of the parole, if they're out of parole, but the parole have discontinued or ended, if they're out of the prison system and have served their term, or if they're out of probation and have to serve their term, there's no sort of support, necessarily positive support to continue with that structure that they would have been provided when they were in the systems, that most of them would have benefited greatly from. What we see that they're back in the same community and they would engage in the same sort of behaviors, and there's the high possibility, and it have been seen, for that of recidivism or reoffending. So with that reintegration and rehabilitation program, we're doing what we call our Earn to Learn, where we've identified some of our high-risk young persons and we're actually providing them with a stipend to keep them safe and I guess with some sort of income, and we're also exposing them to some sort of upskilling. So currently we're working in the areas of cosmetology, we're working in the area of plumbing, and we're working in the area of basic electricity. Within that program, we're also offering basic literacy, numeracy, some of those persons that would require that, and of course, personal development sessions. We're also working again with life skills and personal development that was shared, but also working with their social networks, working in their community with who are they aligned with, not only the families, but who are the friends that we can also bring on board to support in that sort of reintegration. And of course, we continue with strong partnership across our departments, but also in the community. But I want to make an appeal here that we have received some additional support, and we will anticipate some more support from our governments, and we want to thank you in advance, Minister, for that. We have received some support from the FCDO, the Foreign Commonwealth Office, and the Commonwealth Secretariat for that. And we want to do a lot of monitoring and evaluation, because we want to assure that what we're implementing are really programs that are making a difference, and it's not that we're just responding to what's there. And that's why we may have taken some time to roll out those programs, what was very critical, because we want to ensure that they're embedded, and they're embedded well, and they can be sustained, and we can see true behavior change. And what I want to say, though, that of the support from the community, from parents, from folks like you, gentle folks of the media, we want you to serve as our ambassadors, to speak, the positive, and continue to speak the positive, the encouragement of young persons, to help them in redirecting those ways. Because as I shared from the commencement, it's really a response. It's really a response, and there are a lot of underlying issues or challenges that may not have been addressed, that young persons feel aggrieved to, that families have not yet dealt with, and the response is projecting in that of crime and violence. Now, what can each of us do? Me, Hyacinth, what are you doing? So I do ask myself, what am I doing to make it better? Are you doing just wasting government money and your time, or do you really think that you're doing something that's impactful? Mark, you do. We know with behavior and people change, it will take some time. So you may not see anything happening, but all these programs are happening and them fellas still killing themselves. It will not be an immediate, automatic change of behavior and attitudes and comportment. But we do, if all of us can put hands together and we make a change, we can see a great revolution, in that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Bradley. And now we will have the Senior Program Officer, Youth, Mrs. Janelle Anthony.
Good afternoon to everyone listening and everyone present. Again, my condolences to the families who lost the young men over the past week. At the Department of Youth and Culture, Youth Division, we, as the community service planner said, we are continuing, we are working, we are looking at ways to create this positive change in our young people and the young people of now, because the young people of before, it's not the young people we have now in 2025. So we have 2 youth employability programs. We have the Job Link Up program, where we target and support vulnerable young persons between the ages of 16 to 30. And for us at the youth, before I go further, for us at the youth division, the youth age is 10 to 35. When we look at socioeconomic factors and personal factors, for those vulnerable youth, we're looking at issues of drug abuse, persons who have left school before completing their 5 years, persons who have had interactions with the justice system, and the list goes on. So in the Job Link Up program, we provide behavioral and career counseling, continuing education and training, job placements and a stipend, mentorship, and professional and personal development. And we work with the private sector. The other youth employability program that we have is the Youth Exposure Program, and that program targets persons between the ages of 17 to 30 years old, and under that program, they get work experience. They also receive professional development, a stipend, and they learn how to sustain themselves, become entrepreneurs. They learn how to foster some type of personal growth as they move along their youth age. So these are our 2 programs that we have ongoing. Both programs lasts it's 6 months. It is a successful program because persons have been on the program and are still gainfully employed, whether it's at the departments or the government agencies or the private agencies, and some persons also have their own jobs. They are entrepreneurs in their field. The other area the department is working on as of late last year is strengthening the community centers. We see the community centers as a safe space for young people, for community persons, parents, business owners, etc. And we want to strengthen the offerings of those centers in terms of programming. Right now, all our centers, and when I say all our centers, Blowing Point, West End, Hope Center in East End, and Herschel in the Valley, we do offer homework support for young persons, and we are right now working with the community service planner to develop other programs to provide that safe space for young people and community persons to be able to come and develop themselves. So these are the 2 key areas that we at the department we are continually working on, and we have had many collaborations with education department, especially for our young people, the primary school age people, where we collaborate with the student council. And I'm not sure who have seen it or who went to take part in the kids premiere in the Maurice Vanderpool School. We also collaborated with them. That was such a successful, beautiful event for young persons in showing them the ways of owning their own businesses. And I plead with young people as a teacher for so many years. It really hurts my heart sometimes to see the direction that they take, but we have a responsibility in the department, in the ministry, to always put them first. And I am asking persons who wants to come to the department, come so we could offer some sort of resource or resource persons so that you are directed in the right paths. Thank you very much, Minister, and continue working as you do.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Anthony. I'm going to open the floor for questions, but I just want to put on record my thanks to the team members who, on very short notice over the weekend, made themselves available to speak publicly on some of the ongoing initiatives and those that are upcoming. I wish to thank you again publicly for your continued hard work and your dedication in this area that is often sometimes a thankless job, but we appreciate all that you're doing now and always. Thank you so much. I'll open the floor to questions.
For the services planner, Mrs. Hyacinth Bradley, you mentioned the Family First program.
Yes, sir.
I would imagine that that program covers physical, mental, social aspects of young people's lives.
Yes, sir.
How about the spiritual? Do you care for spiritual aspects of the development as well?
Yes, sir. It's a holistic program, and as I said earlier, it's really embedded on a parent-centered program. So we do look at the physiology and the physical development of young persons and adolescents, etc., and the behavior changes that they go through, but it's done in such a way that it speaks to the parent and what they should look at. So yes, we do have the spiritual aspect. We do respect, though, because we have different religions, persons of religious backgrounds, attending, but we do faith and spirituality and the impact it will have in family upbringing.
My next question is, how far does that spiritual scope cover? How much does it cover? Do you encourage parents to attend churches, those who don't attend church? Do you encourage them to attend church with their children?
We identify positive spaces or communities that are safe where they could engage in, and the church could be seen as one. However, how the programs are designed, it's a curriculum with 4 different chapters, so it's a combination of 40 topics. And in order to identify what the topics that we engage parents with or in, we do a survey. So the topic on spirituality have not been a topic that is widely selected. However, family building and positive safe spaces would be one, and positive engagement, and how you engage with separation and all those things. These topics have been identified, but again, as I said, embedded in those engagements is the safe spaces and the positive outlets, and the faith-based focus or spirituality is one of the areas that's flagged, that's heightened.
Because I think that the bedrock of a child's upbringing is not just the word spirituality. We must be practical about the relationship with God, and to find where he or she can convert to Jesus Christ, God's Son. That may sound more religious to you or to the public, but I find that the ills in our society today is because we forget about God. A lot of folks, children has become insensitized to godly principles. And because of that, in my view, and other people believe the same thing, that's the reason why we are on a downward trend, because we have forgotten about God. And the things that brought us together when we were growing up, we would say that, okay, a village raises a child, and there were good pronouncements. Goodness was shared, love was shared, but now we've deviated from those virtues.
I'm happy that you're bringing that in, and I know we don't want to dwell a lot on that, but I would like to say that the church is a community on its own. We have a number of churches, and we're actually building relationships with the churches, where we've seen that families, although they may not be attending churches, they identify with a church. So we're trying to get the churches, whatever the religion, is to be to reach out to those families too. And even through the Department of Youth and Culture and that close partnership we do have, there's a mentorship pool. And we identify mentors from those areas. And there are instances where the mentors have taken those young persons to church and under the wings and to church with them. But again, we see that engagement as holistic. It includes not only the spiritual aspects, but the physical, the mental, and the psycho-emotional support that we want to provide to our parents and the families to better, I guess, build and better continue to grow positively. Thanks.
Thank you.
I didn't identify myself before. I'm Don LaHodge with Class FM 92.9. You raised a great point about religion and church and that kind of thing. The problem we have with that, though, is that a growing number of people, especially in the black communities, do not believe in God for many, many reasons. And that's a whole new different topic. So we've got to be careful how we try to force religion or God or that kind of thing on people, because some of them in their own mind have valid reasons for not believing in God. I can tell you I am bombarded almost on a daily basis with material from people who tell me the church you go to, Anglican church, is a pagan organization. Get out of it. It's not godly. And a lot of people growing believe that. So, but your question is valid. It's a good point that you make. And I do believe in God, and I do believe that what you say is valid. I'd like to say to you all, I think you all are doing a great job dealing with the issues that you deal with. It is difficult for you to deal with such a complexity of personalities. You're dealing with one child who might have this issue. You have to switch gears immediately to deal with another child. You have to switch gears again. It can drive you crazy. So the fact that you can keep your sanity and do your job is commendable, in my opinion. So I would say that. The other thing I would like to just basically ask or just comment on, at what point do you target children or persons in need? Is there an age group, or do they have to get into a particular trouble?
So any member of the panel can answer, but I will say that at different levels, there are different departments that would intervene. So for example, the Department of Social Development can intervene in a situation from as early as a child is a baby. If there's an environment that is unsafe or anything like that. So it really depends on the specific situation. And the Department of Social Development, as I said, can intervene at various stages of the child's life. But that department only intervenes when there is an actual issue, right? So this is like at the end of, there's a major issue or something, and the department has to step in. But in terms of all the preventative measures, this is the department that is now trying to provide that support. Mrs. Bradley would have indicated that she's looking at grades 3 to 4, starting in that age range. And so as the department expands, you may be able to start even earlier than that. Okay. But in terms of intervention, it all depends on the actual circumstances and situations. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment.
I would like to add to it. I'm the education officer for Student Support Services. Today, I'm here as the acting CEO. So in the department, we have the division called Student Support Services, and we interact with them from kindergarten. Actually, from preschools, we would be able to have a gauge of them coming into primary school. So in our unit, we have what you call SENCO, Special Education Need Coordinators, at each school. So we monitor our children, and as we said, it's not just academics. We monitor behavior, we put interventions in place. There is a team effort. So we do have what you call protocols and guidelines. We would intervene early. We would invite parents, and if that child has a social worker or the counselor, now we have another arm, would be the ministry, in terms of Mrs. Bradley's unit, they would come to the sit-down meeting. So here's where we discuss, we put interventions in place. We do know that an intervention should be 4 to 6 weeks. We review. If there's need to change the intervention, we change the intervention. If it is now beyond us, this is the level now. So we do have protocol and we do have structure in place for supporting, and we do involve the parent from the onset. So when it gets to the next level where the child would have to be referred for further support, that parent would be all on board knowing that the school would have helped, the school would have intervened, the school would have supported his or her child, whether it's physical, whether their needs. We have our education welfare officers that work closely with the Department of Social Development, so their physical needs could be met. If it's emotional, we have our counselors. If it's behavioral, we have our counselors. We would go out, we would have other specialists to be a part of the discussion. So yes, we are at the grassroots. It's not just something that is starting now with the ministry in terms of the grade 3 focus. These are the children now that we would want outside intervention. So we have our school action, and this is school action plus, which means we need more help from outside the school to assist with the behaviors.
Okay, those are the answers I was really hoping for, but I would suggest that we even go a little further. It would create more work for you on the front end, but I think it would reduce your workload as you move forward. And that is, you know, as all of you know, I'm sure, most child psychologists say that by the time a child is 2 years old, their habits, whether it's criminal or not, it's already formed. And it's tough to change them at that point, even at 2-year-olds. And I know, I don't want to get into that, but I believe that, based on my experiences, to be true. So we should probably give some consideration, given the fact that, as I've said, and I see you shaking your head in agreement, that by the time a child is 2, their habits are already formed. The outlook on life is already formed. You know, they're born in this world, their mind is like a blank computer, like a blank disk or computer disk, whatever it's called. And everything they see, hear, touch, feel, view, until they're 2 goes into programming them. So their mind is programmed. So what about trying to identify, even before birth, identify parents who are newlyweds, who are planning a family. Try to get those parents to understand that being a parent is probably the most important job you'll ever have. And you can bring a child into the world that can bring death, destruction, sorrow, and misery into the world because you have failed to do your job. Or you can bring a child into the world that will be a blessing to the community and to the world. So I'm going to stop rambling in a minute, I'm sorry. But, you know, try to get parents to understand their responsibility. And if you get them to understand their responsibility and do their job to train the children right and monitor them, that will save you a lot of problems as we're going forward. So I would suggest that we kind of look at that. Single mothers who might be pregnant, they probably resent the interference, but we've got to try to reach out to them and get them to understand, you know, that we are trying to put them in a position where they can bring a child into the world who's a blessing and not a curse. So I'll shut up. That's my...
And I just want to thank you for saying that, because it reminded me that I hadn't mentioned the relationship we do have with the Department of Health Services. So we do have a working relationship, and as part of the rollout of the Family First program, we do offer ongoing engagements with persons who are planning to become parents, persons who are pregnant, you know, with child, or families who are with child. So we do that engagement. We rely on the health team to identify the topics that they feel is most critical, always in discussions with the parents. And with the expectant family. We do have that. So thanks for bringing that up, and we realize how impactful and important it is for the well-being of the parent themselves to be looked at from that psycho-emotional aspect to even prior. And through the Department of Education, and I know Teacher Tristan is going to speak on what is happening in terms of the, I guess, PSHE and all those sessions of even becoming, as you grow and as you develop, what changes you go through and what sort of engagement as you develop and, from partnership, what could happen and what is the expectation of you and how the decisions you make at those young age can really affect not only you as a young adult, but also as a parent. Thank you so much.
Yes. As Mrs. Bradley, I just wanted to add on, she spoke about family life education and PSHE at the high school level, that those are programs that would help our students in decision making and giving them those skills that they would need. But I wanted to also piggyback to say that when we are dealing with our students at the primary level that would be experiencing challenging behaviors or even a challenge on a whole, once the parent is involved, we support the parent as well. So the intervention is not just for the child at school. We talk with the parent. We want to know, is that the same behavior at home? How can we help you at home? And so it is that partnership, knowing that we need a home. The home, the school, and the community should work together to ensure that these children, our children, grow up to be productive citizens. So we do not leave the parent out. And I must say, we have a number of parents that are very, very involved. They're appreciative and they look for the support and they really do what they have to do. So that is also to say that all is not lost. We are working and we know that there are parents out there that need the help and they look forward to it.
Okay, I'll just make this one statement and shut up. On the part of the perpetrator, two conditions must exist in his or her mind. One, the desire to commit the crime, and two, the opportunity to commit the crime. And so as government, we need to work with our communities, with the parents, to put that child in a frame of mind from as early as possible that the desire to commit a crime is unacceptable. It should not be the way to go. It should not be a part of your thought process. And of course, the opportunity is not something that we can work on readily. We can. The police, with the police department, they have to do they will do their role, perform their role and try to eliminate or reduce opportunities for criminal activity. But from social welfare, social services point of view, have to concentrate on convincing the child that the desire to commit a crime is unacceptable. It's a losing position. So anyway, thank you for letting me comment, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hodge, as well. Are there any other questions so I can allow the...
This question is for the Commander-in-Chief, Madam Premier. I am very much aware that crime takes precedence to every other issue, but can you give us an update on the issue of the appointment of the Director of Social Security?
1 second. I just want the questions that are related to the technical team to be asked first, if that's okay, just so that we allow them to be able to leave.
But I did also indicate at the beginning of this press conference that we're going to be very focused in terms of the issues of gun crime and violence, because we do have the other members to speak as well, so we'll have to see. But certainly if I am not able to answer your question today, we will answer it at the next press conference. Thank you.
This is a question that came in from a member of the public. I guess the minister and any other person on the panel could answer. Over the years, Anguilla has used corporal punishment as a form of discipline in schools. Many older citizens and educators believe it was effective in instilling discipline, respect, and a clear sense of right and wrong in children. It was not viewed as abuse, but as a firm corrective measure that helps shape morally grounded and law-abiding citizens. Since its ban in schools, some persons believe that children's behavior has worsened with increasing levels of disrespect towards authority, lack of self-control, and poor conflict resolution skills. So the question is, what specific support systems and alternative disciplinary strategies has government planned to implement, or what has been implemented before, to replace corporal punishment and ensure that young persons are guided away from indiscipline and gang involvement?
That's a very loaded question. I will say personally, I have my own personal views on the removal of that system. I certainly didn't support it at the time. At the time when it was removed, I had just come from being a teacher and I was away at university. And so I had some very strong views on that at the time. The reality is we are here. A decade later from that period, and obviously there are a number of implications that have happened as a result of that in that span of time. But I don't want the public to believe that there have not been alternative interventions that have been taking place in the education system to replace some of those things. And I would like, Teacher Tracy, if possible, for you to weigh in on some of those from a school-based level.
All right, so first of all, I've been an educator straight out of school, over 30 years, and I have been on both sides. I have been a teacher when corporal punishment was in place, and now that it is not in place. And I first must say that, if I can say, corporal punishment has been taken away from the school system. It doesn't say that parents cannot discipline their children. And I'm going to say the difference, because there is a difference between punishment and discipline. Discipline comes from the word disciple, and disciple means to teach. And so we have to get our heads around teaching children. There's a saying that says, if a child doesn't know how to read, what do? We teach them to read. If they do not know how to drive, what do? We teach them to drive. But how come we cannot complete a statement, if a child doesn't know how to behave, what do? We teach them how to behave. And so it's discipline to disciple. And so we have, from, like I said, the early 90s, 2000, we have instituted the positive behavior management system at school, where we have expectations of children, and we have the sanctions. So it's not that children are getting away with stuff, there are sanctions in place. And sanctions could be from having a child reflect on his or her behavior, to apologizing, because you may smile or may smirk, but children today are so insensitive. If we don't bring back those soft skills of empathy, being able to say, I'm sorry, you would have a preschooler stand straight and do not want to apologize. And so what does that happen? What happens after that? We become adults and we do not apologize. And so it is not a bad thing to apologize. It's to be able to recognize that I have wronged you. And those are the things that we are experiencing right now. The things as not being able to say, I am sorry. Those are fundamentals. And so we are saying that the home is the place where discipline should start. And if we do it right at home, chances are when they come into our school system, these other measures that we put in place, students will follow. Now we know that there will be some that would not follow, and that is where the other catchments, the other interventions come in place. And so we want to encourage our parents to come on board with the schools and help our students to follow the rules. Rules are meant to be followed. And so likewise, we need to encourage them to do so. And as parents, they are free to discipline their child, not to abuse, discipline their child. That's what I would take. So right now, the Albino Lake Arch Comprehensive School, they have a draft positive behavior management plan. You would have heard over the past, on February, they actually went back to the drawing board and they have a draft positive behavior management, which includes the infractions and the sanctions. And so the primary schools would have had our positive behavior management plans, and they have upgraded them over the past week or two. And so it's about being consistent in what we do, ensuring that the children understand what they do and why they do it. And sometimes it's as simple as a reflection. If that was you, what would you expect? And so reflection is a very key component. If we teach our children to be reflective and to really be able to decide from early what was right and what was wrong, we would help to eliminate a lot of these behaviors that we have now, because really and truly, persons don't see anything wrong with it because we have not been teaching them that this is right, this is wrong, and why. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, ladies. Have a pleasant afternoon. Okay, so we'd like the rest of the team to come on board. As the team is coming in, I would just like the general public to know participate in such. And immediately after that, I will be traveling to the Education World Forum in the UK, and that is conducted through the Foreign Commonwealth Office as well. So I would once again like to express my appreciation for all partners for those opportunities. Thank you. At this time, I would like to turn over to the Honorable Mr. Kyle Hodge.
Thank you, Minister. So we have heard a lot so far. We heard a lot from the Commissioner of Police, and then we heard of the many interventions that are currently ongoing from the Department of Social Development, and there are more programs to be rolled out. I think when you look at everything, we have to realize that it boils down to us, all of us as a people in Anguilla, being accountable to each other, accountable to our family and friends, accountable to our community. If we look at the overall family structure, we as people, if we have a heart-to-heart conversation, we would be able to recognize that there are some homes, some parents that may be having some issues raising their children. And when we identify those issues, this is where family structures come into play. This is where uncles and aunts and grandparents, come in and step in. And if we recognize that uncles and aunts and grandparents aren't able to step in, then we recognize that there's an issue with this family. If this family is not able to be there for, someone who may be troubled, this is where a community comes in. So we have to go back to the basics. I could stay here and give a report on natural resources. I can give a report on economic development. But if we don't look each other in the mirror, look each other in our faces, or look in the mirror and say, what can I do to assist? It all will go in vain. So my appeal to us is, as a people, to be accountable, to be our brother's keeper, and as much as possible, look out for your neighbor. As much as possible, look out for your relatives, and let's see how all of us can work together to tackle the issues that are plaguing our society. We can roll out as much programs, we can do as much law enforcement, but it still boils down to the home, the community, the church, to government, the entire collective. I know what we're doing in economic development as it relates to MOUs is trying to tie social programs. And, we are right now in discussion with the investors for the Marina project. And just the other day, speaking to the principal, he is keen on investing in sailing. And if I can give a plug to the Youth Sailing Association, they have been able to utilize the talents of many of our youngsters in the boat racing arena. They have picked up on this program, and children around are loving the waters, loving the sea, loving sailing. It is in our heritage, and they have found a niche to be able to train youngsters, to keep youngsters occupied. They can be many other places, but the sailing academy, the owners of that program, they take their time out to train these youth, every week. So these are the kind of assistant programs that we are engaging developers in, to be able to invest in our youth, and invest in the community and give back to Anguilla. Okay, I can stop here for now. Jose Vanterpool.
Thank you, Minister Hodge. Good afternoon to all, and good afternoon to all Anguillians who are following online. As you may know, I was away from last Tuesday and got back yesterday. I was attending the Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum on behalf of the government, and along with me were the Acting Permanent Secretary, Mr. Travis Carty, as well as the Acting Director of Public Utilities, Mr. Joban Guns. Now, the Caribbean Renewable Energy Forum, or CREF, the whole point of it is to bring together stakeholders, particularly throughout the region, but also throughout the world, for the purposes of knowledge sharing, networking, and assisting each other in terms of successfully moving towards the renewable energy transition, with the ultimate goal, of course, being sustainability. We had some long days. We met with several persons, whether government representatives, persons representing the private sector, NGOs that have interests in the renewable energy space, from international organizations such as the World Bank, the Caribbean Development Bank, the European Union, the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office, the FCDO, as well as the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, to name a few. And this was done, So this was done in an effort to not only find strategic partnerships for Anguilla and for the government, but also in the hopes of finding funding for ANGLIC, as well as for the government in its efforts towards transitioning towards renewable energy, but also for our development as a whole. And I must say that I was truly excited to be able to come back and report on some positive outcomes and some commitments that we would have garnered as a result of these meetings, particularly after an exciting meeting that we had with the president of the Caribbean Development Bank and his team. But it was only upon leaving that meeting on Friday that I was met with the news, the heartbreaking news of what was going on here in Anguilla. I'll give my insights as to those outcomes, what happened at the conference, as well as updates within the ministry throughout the week and at a later point. As the conference that we have today is particularly focused on the issue of gun crime and violence and how we combat it here in Anguilla. Now, we know that this isn't something that's new to us. We'd have had the Gun Crime and Violence Committee, but it's something that this administration and we all as Anguillians and we all as stakeholders must take seriously if we're going to ensure not only the financial viability of our country, but literally the future generations, the future of Anguillians. My heart goes out to the families, the friends, and the loved ones of all those young men who unfortunately and unnecessarily lost their lives to senseless acts of violence. I myself know what it is like personally to lose a loved one to a senseless act of gun violence in particular. The trauma it brings up, the feelings, the emotions, the dark place that it can send you to. I want to take this opportunity personally to extend my condolences to all those who are suffering that loss, but to all Anguillians, because this is something that affects us all as a nation. And my heart truly bled over the weekend and continue to bleed for our people. With the recent happenings, there has been a significant outcry with respect to the need for CCTV. And we know that this isn't something that's new. It's been an ongoing conversation. In fact, it was one of the recommendations that also came out of the Gun Crime and Violence Committee's report. And there was a question asked about it earlier today. So I'd like to provide a bit of the background to answer the question that you asked earlier. There was work that had previously begun towards progressing to the adoption of CCTV across the island. There was $1 million that was budgeted for under the budget line of the governor's office, of course, with CCTV being an issue pertaining towards bolstering our national security. Last year's budget. And what I can say is that some of these funds were diverted and utilized towards the completion of the Joint Emergency Services Control Room. And in terms of the process overall, the procurement documents were prepared and they were sent out. But there was some feedback from some of the persons who were interested in bidding on the project in terms of requesting clarification. So what happened was the procurement bid was pulled back. A consultant was engaged to help tighten up the procurement document. The consultant was on the ground in Anguilla, would have visited the various sites to see what we need, and then the procurement documents would have been redone with the hopes of going out. Somewhere along the line, it seems that that process either was slowed or was held up. But the reality is, while this situation would have predated us as an administration, it is our job now that we're at the helm to deal with it. So I'm happy to report to the people that the procurement documents will be completed and, well, the documents to go to the procurement office will be completed and submitted to them by tomorrow. That's something that I will give you my assurance on. And I know that some persons will say, well, what hopes is that because procurement can take some lengthy time? We will be pushing to ensure that this process is wrapped up and we can get some tangible implementation or some progress towards implementation within the next few weeks, although I can't provide any definitive dates at this time. What I would like to say in closing is I'd like to join with the Premier in commending those members of our team who were here on the ground during the time that these incidents were taking place, particularly Honorable Minister Kyle Hodge, who got what was nothing short of a baptism by fire in his first go-around as acting Premier. I'd also like to thank the Royal Anguilla Police Force for the work that they've been doing, as well as the members of the community who would have assisted in any way from stopping this from escalating, whether that's by providing information or whether that's by working along with the community or speaking to our young people. Let's speak to our children. Finally, I'd like to appeal to our young people to please put an end to these senseless acts. When we go out as a government, any initiative that we do, whether it's finding funding, trying to build opportunities, it's not for us. It's not for us to say what we've done. It is literally for your future and for the future generations. The cycle that we have of hurt, of pain, of people crying, it must come to an end because at some point enough must be enough. If an eye for an eye is the law of the land, eventually the whole world would go blind. And I know that that's a hard ask, because having gone through that pain, to tell someone, you know what, we need to put an end to this, you need to just forgive. It is difficult. But at the end of the day, what is the alternative? It's only a matter of time until the cycle will come back again, and it will end up on our doorstep. Enough needs to be enough. We need to put the guns down, and we need to learn to love and move together in harmony. Thank you. Next up will be Honorable Minister Cardigan Connor.
Thank you, Jose, and good afternoon, everyone. In my Ministry of Health, Sports, and Tourism, I want to start by saying Happy Nurses Day to all the nurses out there. I gave a broadcast earlier, or a message earlier, and again, all that's happened over the last week, we realize that if you survive, you end up at the Princess Alexandra Hospital. So the nurses are there, they're the caregivers, they're the ones that sees the pain, they quite often sees the pain in the eyes of the victim, but also of the family members who are paying last respects. In sports, my colleague Jason Bryan will give more of an update, but today is the King's Baton Relay presentation at the Governor's House, or the residence. So after this, I will go off to that. But this morning, in my capacity as Minister of Tourism, we had a meeting with a number of stakeholders at the Executive Council. And I felt in the room it was more about tourism rather than, or what will happen to tourism if all that's going on in Anguilla with the shootings continues. We often say, and I totally endorse, that our greatest asset is our people. It's not about our restaurants or our beaches or our hotels. It is about our people. And on a small island, whether it's something happens in Island Harbor or West End, it affects the whole island. And this is another opportunity. We might say it's a situation where it couldn't get any worse. Of course it could, but it needs to get a lot better. And a lot of it is down to us. When I say down to us, it's down to us as Anguillians, because our first priority is about our people. It is about our future. The challenge that we're all facing is that our people are afraid. They're frightened. But the fact is, do you want to carry on being frightened or afraid? Or you can stand up and do something about it? Many of our heroes, my heroes anyway, are those who fought for something. They fought for the freedom. They fought for the right to vote. And for many of them, it cost them their lives. For us here in Anguilla, we're fighting for our children, for our brothers, our sisters, and in some cases, fathers and mothers. Yesterday at the Methodist Church in West End, Reverend Vincier had a powerful prayer. And with that prayer, it was about our children that are being shot. And one mother in front of me, who I know one of her sons, or her son, our only son, to be quite honest, is one of those vulnerable ones. And she started to cry. And when she started to cry, the whole church, even he tried to comfort her, he couldn't. The whole church started to cry because it was all personal. And if you feel that pain, you will do something about it. I think we've reached a stage in Anguilla where we've got to stop talking about it and feel the pain of that mother. I don't have any children of my own, but the whole of Anguilla, all the children that I would have coached in cricket, the ones that I take to golf training, the ones I take to the sailing school, the ones that I take to cycling and to track and field, they are my children. And I will do all that I can. And I know for us as a government, we will do the same. My appeal, and I know that the Honorable Kyle Hodge, and this is just a tongue-in-cheek, he needs to understand timing. When the Premier gave me the responsibility of being the acting Premier, I didn't have all of this. But Kyle, I'm glad it was you and not me. But again, on a serious note, it is something that will make us all stronger as a government, because we have that responsibility to our people. Today it's not about tourism. It is about the future of Anguilla. And our future is about what is really happening with our vulnerable children. We could criticize from top to bottom. We could talk about parenting, and most of the time when we talk about the parenting, we're talking about single mothers. It's usually about the mothers because they're the ones who end up with the children. But we as a government, and during the campaign, I talked about single mothers who are taking their young children to England for a safer environment. When Anguilla, think about COVID. People wanted to come to Anguilla because they felt we were a safe environment. So I know that the way forward for us is to, as my colleague Joseph Vanderpool mentioned, Honorable Joseph Vanderpool, we need to look in the mirror, look in the eyes of that person that's looking back at you and ask, what are you doing about it? We don't have to rely on a governor coming from England or commissioner of police coming from elsewhere or policemen from down south or other islands. We have the responsibility to our family. If we can't protect our families and are afraid to do it, what do we expect others to do? Just see it as a job? We've got a commitment. All of us have got a commitment. The ones who are out there running scared because if they shoot, they run away. They're still scared. We have to find a way to embrace them and bring them back into the fold. And I think as we go forward as a people, all of us have got a responsibility. All of us need to ask, who am I mentoring? Not criticizing the situation of someone, but what can we honestly do? And the truth is, all of us have got a role to play. And this I beg of all of you, the ones who are here, and all the Anguillians, all the guests who comes to Anguilla, all the Anguillians elsewhere. Too often, when one of our youngsters is in danger, we believe in danger, we send him off to England. Is that the answer? No. Because there's something about an 18-year-old who's still lying in the hospital bed. He was in England. He came home. What drew him home? Maybe he's the answer to tell us to take the veils off, takes the mask off, and deal with it head on. And that's what we all need to do. I thank you.
A pleasant good afternoon or good evening to those who are listening in via the various media methods. I too would want to echo the sentiments that have been delivered by my colleagues at this head table, and to extend my condolences to the immediate families of all of those who were affected, the immediate and extended families. And by extended families, I can include all of Anguilla. I would have listened to the presentation earlier, where the acting education officer, chief education officer, would have mentioned the challenges in terms of the psychologists and the various professional help that would be needed and the difficulties. And just to remind the public that some of those who are tasked with the responsibility professionally to counsel our children at this difficult time, they themselves are victims of gun violence. The Premier mentioned earlier that it is a public health issue. I would go a little further in saying that it is a public health crisis. And I will give a short definition about a public health crisis in a moment. We hear about epidemic and we hear about pandemic. And I'm sure that a number of individuals probably would criticize me for giving a brief definition of both of those words. No pun intended, I don't mean to challenge your intelligence, but when we look at an epidemic, It is a disease outbreak that is rapidly spreading in a limited region. And when we talk about pandemic, COVID-19 is a classic example. And a pandemic is an epidemic that is actively spreading to multiple regions and basically across the globe. This pandemic of crime and violence is all over the world, and it is home for us. It is at home for us. We've got to band ourselves together and come up with solutions to address the situation with crime and violence in Anguilla. This is not a political issue. This is not a personal issue. It is an issue that is affecting the fabric of our society. I would want to go on record to thank those first responders and to thank the General Surgeon and his staff at the Princess Alexandra Hospital for their role, their skill set in saving that 18-year-old who I believe is still hospitalized. Again, a health crisis. Too often, and sometimes rightfully so, there would be a lot of criticisms of our healthcare systems. But at the end of the day, I want to thank them for what they are doing and what they have done under very trying circumstances, limited situations, and assisting and helping to save lives as we try to battle this scourge of gun violence and criminal activity. As I said a little earlier, a public health crisis is a serious and urgent health system emergency that affects a significant portion of the population in one form or another. I emphasize that is because in Anguilla today, we are all affected by what is happening with our young people. These crises has had a devastating impact upon our community, upon our health care. It has led to loss of lives. Our young people are falling victims to this healthcare crisis. And as the minister said earlier, we would have had meetings and it would seem as if though some individuals are thinking just about tourism. But at the end of the day, our tourists come, they're meted and greeted and served by our people. And when we lose our people, especially our young people, it also disrupts the economy and the economic development that we work so hard for in order to provide a better way of life and living for our people. So, through our own local businesses, when these situations occur, they themselves will also have a dip in terms of their economic activity and their business ventures and so on. And of course, the hospitality industry and the services that they provide. So all in all, this spate of gun violence and crime and criminal activity, it has a ripple effect throughout the society. So I would only urge parents, the churches, the schools, all of us in government, the media, civil society in general, to let us band together and try and see what we can do in order to be able to stamp out or reduce the hurt, the pain, and the overall effect as a society with this scourge of gun violence and criminal activity. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone, and good afternoon to the people that joined us via all media means. Today is a sad day. It was a sad week for the lives that have been lost, and I would like to extend my condolences to all families affected by these losses. But as my colleagues have already mentioned, this is a situation that can not only be handled by government, Commissioner of Police, Governor's Office, that everyone is playing their role, but this is a community issue where everyone has to come together for the best solution. We will never have a perfect solution, but if we all come together and put the forces together, we will find a solution to it. To our youth, Generation Z, which I'm still part of, I would like to let you know that we are here for you. We want to open those lines of communications, since probably to you, we don't understand you, or we don't know what you're going through. We cannot judge you because we're not in the positions to do that. But we want to let you know that we open the lines of communications to listen to you and help us through your own means, help us to understand you, help us to find the best way forward for you. If we're not doing it right, then help us to find the different ways that we can do it so that it can better fit to you. Through sports, I've mentioned initiatives through previous press conference into developing sports. But sports is well connected to youth, just as how education and any other areas are. And what we will be looking forward to is to build in a committee of community sports, where this committee will be looking into developing programs within the communities so that youth can find an avenue of development through sports, and that they can take it along into their as they grow. So this committee will be providing us as a team, of course, with a report as to what is going on with sports in communities, what are the best ways forward for us, what programs are the best qualified to suit and develop sports within communities for our youth, and that from there we can align it with education, emotional intelligence, and going forward. But once again, to the people of Anguilla, let's come together, let's put our hands on the table, and let's find the best way forward for this and the best solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen. As we wind down our statements and open the floor for one last time to our press persons who are here, I want to indicate, and you've heard from all of us speaking on the same issues, the community involvement, the need for us to come together as a people, the fact that that we alone are going to be able to address the issues that are existing in our communities. It is a public health problem. You will have heard the member for Mr. Evan McNeil Rogers explain the extent of the public health issues that we're experiencing. And we want to hear from the public. We want the public to be involved because this is our time to be able to effect the change in our country. We will be having a series of town hall meetings beginning tomorrow evening. Across the 7 districts. You will hear of the time and location over the next couple of hours. We will be mostly at I believe all of the consultations, the town hall meetings will be at the various churches throughout the districts. We want you to come out. We want to hear your thoughts. Everyone has an opinion. We want to hear your insight. We will also express to you the thoughts and the ideas that we have in terms of moving forward. You have heard from the Ministry of Social Development and Education and the plans that are what's taking place now and the plans anticipated. But at the end of the day, all of this will be for naught if the people of Anguilla do not decide that it is time for this to come to an end. We have to make a decision, and we have to determine that we want to take the steps needed to be able to save our country. So I invite each and every one of you to come out to our town hall meetings. If you can't come out to one that's in your district, come out to any of the others. Express your views, express your concerns. We will be establishing a commission as well to look at the issues of gun crime and violence and to be able to take our plans moving forward. But it is important. This is about putting people first. This is putting our people first. And so once again, I encourage you to come out for over the next 7 days. It's already out. So the first one is tomorrow evening, Tuesday at 7 p.m. It's the town hall meeting in District 7, and that is at the Alwyn Allison Richardson Primary School. And then we have the location, we'll go from District 7, Wednesday, District 6, Thursday, District 5, Friday, District 3, Saturday, District 2. Sunday, we'll have Monday, District 1 Town Hall meeting, and Tuesday, District 3 Town Hall meeting. So I'm encouraging you to come out. These, the information will again be uploaded so that you can have the opportunity to come out. They begin at 7 p.m. nightly, and on 7 p.m. nightly for each of the town hall meetings. So at this point, I'll open the floor one last time for any questions or comments that you may have. Thank you, Jose.
You just mentioned the town hall meetings. What measures our government as a whole would be taken to reach the gang members in the communities?
Well, first of all, you got to come to the town hall meetings, and outline what your thoughts and views are. Second of all, I said that we will be establishing a commission. So it's not that the ministers of government are going out there directly and taking certain measures. We want to be able to do this in a way that is effective. And it means not just necessarily coming up with a plan that we think works for us, but coming up with a plan that the people of the view works for us. Not only that, we already have an idea in terms of the persons who will form part of that commission that will take it forward. So at this point in time, I think that will be too early to indicate whatever measures will be taken on that.
As it relates to the CCTV, Mr. Vanderpool would have mentioned that the procurement documents will be ready by tomorrow. Will this be going down the road of emergency procurement?
Well, I don't want to misspeak by guaranteeing that, but I can say that it won't take the usual length of time that it normally does.
Okay, it's been a long day, and so I want to thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I want to thank the persons who are viewing and listening on social media, and we hope you have a pleasant day and a very productive week. Thank you.